So in the previous videos we talked about the pattern of phase 1 as well as phase 2 for NABARD, right? Then we talked about the eligibility conditions, eligibility criteria, and I also told you the cutoffs for phase 1 and phase 2 as well as for grade A and grade B. We talked about the sectional cutoffs as well as the overall cutoffs. So in this video we'll be discussing the sample paper as released by NABARD in 2016. So before the examination, before the phase 2 examination, NABARD released a sample paper. It contained some questions which were to give you an idea that what kind of questions can be expected in the actual examination. So the pattern of examination is as such that you have paper 1 based on general English, you have paper 2 on ESI and ARD, that is economics and social issues, and agriculture and rural development. Both these papers carry 100 marks and are of 90 minutes duration. If you are appearing for grade A only, you have to give these two papers. If you are also appearing for grade B, then you have to give a third paper in addition to these two papers, and the third paper is on developmental economics, stats and finance and management. This is again a 100 marks paper and 90 minutes duration. So in this video we'll be talking about the sample paper of grade A. That is the first two papers, English and ESI+ARD. This is the first question as given in that sample paper as given by NABARD. So see, here the pattern is that in the English paper you could be asked to write an essay, précis, questions based on the précis, para, report, letter writing. So in the information handbook or the sample paper, NABARD has given essay, précis and letter writing. So this is the first question on essay. So you have to write essay on any one of the following topics, just one. So the first topic is 3 effective measures to eradicate illiteracy in India. Explain how the measures suggested by you will be effective. The second topic is, it is often said that computerization results in unemployment. Do you agree? Explain. See, both these essay topics are asking for your opinion. In the first topic you have to write down effective measures which you think will be good to eradicate illiteracy in India, and then you have to explain how do you think that these measures will be effective, that how these measures can be effective. You have to suggest measures from your own side. And the second topic, you have to give your opinion that do you think that computerization results in unemployment. Do you agree? You can agree, you may disagree. You have to then explain. Fine. So one difference that you can see here as compared to the essay paper as given in RBI is that the topic is a bit lengthy. The topic is a bit lengthy. Now by lengthy I mean that one topic can be should India have UBI? Should India have UBI? Now this is a short topic. Although the length of the essay can be the same, but the topic is a simpler topic. But here what the difference is that you have to write your own opinion. That 3 effective measures you have to suggest from your own side which you think can eradicate illiteracy in India. Right, so this is the difference between RBI and NABARD as far as the essay paper is concerned. The second question is based on précis. Now you have to read the following paragraph, the following passage, and then you have to write a summary or a précis of the following paragraph in about 150 words, and you have to also give a suitable title. Right, so this is about précis, and the third question is on letter writing. So you have to write again one letter. The first is, write a letter to your younger brother explaining him how agriculture sector has changed in the last decade in India. How agriculture sector has changed in the last decade in India. And the second letter is, write a letter to the branch manager of a crop insurance company, sharing a good experience of customer service in settling a claim based on your experience or reading. Right, so both these topics are related to agriculture and rural development. Right, so agriculture sector is directly related to agriculture, and insurance company or crop insurance company is again related to agriculture. So both the letters have to be written, one of the letter has to be written, and the topics have been chosen from agriculture and rural development. They can be based on ESI as well, economics and social issues. So whatever you read for ESI and whatever you read for agriculture sector or agriculture paper, that knowledge will help you in writing this letter. Now let's move on to the second paper, that is ESI and ARD. Kindly note that these are not two different papers, it is a single paper worth 100 marks, 90 minutes duration. So ESI plus ARD is asked as a single combined paper. So the first 3 questions had to be answered based on the following passage. So passage based questions. Kindly read this passage. See, the passage says that data released earlier this year revealed a landmark event for the Indian economy that went largely unnoticed. Agricultural workers now comprise less than half the workforce for the first time in the history of the Indian economy, and its contribution to GDP is less than 14%. Right? So this first paragraph of the passage states that one landmark event. Right? It is not saying a good event or a bad event. It is saying a landmark event. Can be positive, can be negative. Right? So it is a landmark event. But once you read the complete line, that agricultural workers now comprise less than half of the workforce for the first time in the history of the Indian economy, and its contribution is less than 14%. Right? So this is a landmark event which has went largely unnoticed, which has not been noticed by the people, by the people of India or by the media, that this thing has happened in India, that the share of the agricultural workers has reduced in the total workforce for the first time. Right? So it has went down to less than 50% for the first time in the Indian history, and its contribution to GDP is less than 14% now. Second paragraph. However, in recent years, even as the non-agricultural economy remains weak, overall growth has been propped up to the extent it has by the growth of the overall rural economy. Very important line. See, it is saying that in the recent years, even as the non-agricultural economy remains weak, that although in the recent years non-agricultural economy has remained weak, but the overall growth momentum of India has been propped up due to the growth of the overall rural economy. So although the non-agricultural economy remains weak or sluggish, the overall growth has been given a push by the growth of the overall rural economy. That is agricultural economy, fine. And while within the rural economy itself, non-farm activities are becoming increasingly significant within the rural economy. Non-farm activities are becoming increasingly significant. Close to 2 of 3 workers depend on agriculture for an important part of their income. So although within the rural economy, the non-farm activities, the non-agricultural activities, the non-farm activities are becoming significant, important, but still close to 2 out of every 3 workers depends on agriculture for an important part of their income. That is, agriculture still holds an important position in the rural economy. Lower production from earlier years, higher cultivation costs and weaker yields bode ill for farm incomes and by extension for the rural economy as a whole. So these 3 factors, that is the lower production, higher cultivation costs and low yield, these are not good indicators for farm incomes. They are these factors are bad for the farm incomes because they lead to lower farm incomes, and once the farm incomes are low, by extension the rural economy, it is bad for the rural economy as a whole. If the rural incomes are hit, there could be a bigger demand for work under the rural employment guarantee scheme. So if the income of the farmers is hit, if the income of the rural economy is hit, then maybe there could be a demand by the workers to get work under the rural employment guarantee scheme. Though there is a government proposal to restrict NAREGA to tribal districts only, if farm incomes remain weak, this feeds into the rest of the economy, and the intention of the government to see this policy through could well be tested. So what this last paragraph is saying, that if the farm incomes remain weak due to these factors, lower production, right, higher cultivation costs, all these factors, if the farm incomes remain weak, then maybe more workers will seek jobs or work under NAREGA, and the government is thinking of restricting NAREGA to only the tribal districts. But once more people seek jobs under NAREGA, seek work under NAREGA, then it may become difficult for the government to push this policy of restricting NAREGA only to the tribal districts. So this is the complete passage. Now you have to answer question number 1, 2 and 3 based on your understanding of this passage. Let's see the questions. See the first question. What do the statistics regarding the agricultural sector cited in the passage indicate? Farm incomes are likely to be hit by low global commodity prices and weak or stagnant production. Now there is nothing written in the given passage about low global commodity prices. We have already read the passage here. So lower production from earlier years, higher cultivation costs, low yields. Nothing is mentioned about the global commodity prices, so this option is not correct. Overall agricultural output will fall significantly this year despite sustained government assistance. Overall agricultural output will fall significantly this year. Right? Nothing has been said in the passage about this year. Lower production from earlier years, higher cultivation costs, weaker yields bode ill for farm incomes, right? So there is nothing in the passage which states that the overall agricultural output will fall significantly this year. No. Factors such as weak monsoon have resulted in an agricultural deficit. Nothing has been said in the passage about a weak monsoon, so this option is again wrong. The agricultural sector is very important to the economy despite its falling contribution to India's GDP. Let's leave this option for now. Fifth option, agriculture must employ more workforce. Now this again is not justified by the given passage. Nothing has been said in the passage which points us to the direction that agriculture must employ more workforce. In fact, the passage is saying that for the first time in the history of the Indian economy, the share of the agricultural workforce has dropped to less than half of the total workforce. Fine. Come to this option. Agricultural sector is very important to the economy despite its falling contribution to India's GDP. This is the correct option. Why? See here. That despite the non-agricultural economy remaining weak, the overall growth has been given a push or has been propped up by the growth of the overall rural economy. And within the rural economy, although the non-farm activities are becoming important and increasingly significant, still 2 out of 3 workers depend on agriculture. So these two statements justify this point that the agricultural sector is important to the economy despite its falling contribution to India's GDP. So this is the correct answer. Now kindly note that this question, the answer to this question can be found in the passage, or can be inferred, can be deduced from the passage. Question number 2. Which of the following is a welcome development? Bigger demand for work under Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. This is not a welcome development because it shows that your rural economy is under a distress. It is under distress because once the rural income starts falling, then the people who are working in agricultural field, or they are not able to gain, they are not able to earn a good income from the agriculture or from the farm, they then demand work under Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. So this is not a welcome development. Non-agricultural economy remaining weak, no, again not a welcome development because we don't want the non-agricultural economy to remain weak. We want it to be strong. And secondly, it has been given in the passage that even as the non-agricultural economy remains weak, the overall growth has been given a push by the growth of the overall rural economy. So it is not a welcome development. It is not at all a welcome development that your non-agricultural economy is remaining weak. Agricultural workforce becoming less than half of the total workforce. Let's leave this option for now. Higher cultivation costs. No, again not a welcome development because once the cultivation costs go up, once the yields go down, right, so it leads to a deterioration of the farm income. Right, so that is not a welcome development. Restricting NREGA to tribal district, again not a welcome development. It could have been a welcome development had there been no fall in farm income. But again the last paragraph says that this might be a challenge for the government to restrict NREGA to the tribal districts because the farm incomes have remained weak. So again not a welcome development. Agricultural workforce becoming less than half of the total workforce, yes, it is a welcome development for the overall growth of the economy, that your agricultural workforce has become less than half of the total workforce for the first time in the history of the Indian economy, and its contribution to GDP has also fallen down. Right, this is the first paragraph. It is a landmark event. It is a landmark event. Although landmark does not mean that it is a positive event, it does not mean it is a negative event, but once you read the complete paragraph, it kind of gives you a hint that it is a welcome development for the Indian economy, that for the first time the agricultural workers now comprise less than half of the workforce. Right. Now again this question can be deduced, or the answer to this question can be inferred from the given passage. Now see, this question is again to be answered based on the passage, that which of the following best describes NREGA? Guaranteeing 100 days of wage employment to the rural household, guarantee for a minimum price, no. For agricultural yields, guaranteeing crop assurance, no. Guaranteeing crop assurance and minimum price for agricultural yields in tribal areas, no. Guarantee rural employment of one adult member in rural areas, in a farm or non-farm sector. This is again not true because it is not regular employment. Right, so the first option is correct, 100 days. So NREGA, if you read the provisions of NREGA, the features of NREGA, it clearly states that the government is promising 100 days of employment. Right, these days can be different for tribal areas, for drought prone areas, that is a different story, but in general it is 100 days. So the first option is correct. Now the previous two questions could have been answered by the information given in the passage, but this question is not, the answer to this question is not to be found in the passage itself. Please note this point, that the previous two questions, the answers to the previous two questions were inferred or deduced from the passage itself, but the answer to this question is based on your knowledge of the scheme NREGA. So you should know that, you should know the basic features of the important schemes, be it NREGA, be it some other schemes, be it Ajivika, be it Indira Awas Yojana, be it Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, right? Atal Pension Yojana, be it any other important scheme, you have to memorize, you have to know the basic features and provisions of those schemes. Let's move on. Now again you have to answer question number 4 and 5 based on the following paragraph. Let's read the paragraph. The resettlement home where Velayudhan's mother was admitted has limited facilities, with one physically challenged old doctor to attend around 200 inmates. Right, so here is a person, let's name him ABC. His mother has been admitted to a resettlement home. Now the first paragraph is saying that in that resettlement home there are around 200 inmates and just one physically challenged old doctor to take care of those 200 inmates. There are some nurses deputed by the People's Council for Social Justice, a not-for-profit organization. So there are some nurses, and those nurses have been deputed not by the government but by the People's Council for Social Justice, which is a NGO or not-for-profit organization. The care home lacks proper provisions, medicines and accessories like bed sheets and cleaning materials. So there is just one old physically challenged doctor to look after the 200 inmates, and on top of that the resettlement home lacks proper provisions. What are those provisions? Medicines, accessories like bed sheets and cleaning materials. So it lacks all of these. The condition of Velayudhan and his mother suggests a big gap in the much acclaimed decentralized anti-poverty programs of the state and the local self-governments. Right, so although we write so much about these programs, such tall claims are made about these anti-poverty programs, that these programs have resulted in eradication or maybe reduction of poverty, right? But still, once we go to the actual ground situation, when we look at the actual ground situation, we see a big gap, right, in these acclaimed decentralized anti-poverty programs run by the state and the local self-governments. This statement has been said by noted economist Professor K.K. George. There is a need to go beyond the BPL and APL categorization. What we need is a micro level intervention to identify the individual disabilities among the poor and the rich. Important statement. There is a need to go beyond the BPL and APL categorization, below poverty line, above poverty line. What we need is a micro level intervention. Micro level means that at the level of the person, maybe at the level of the household, we have to go to that micro level, because BPL and APL categorizations are macro level, they are macro level categorizations, right? We have to go to the micro level categorization, micro level intervention, where you look at the different disabilities. You just don't categorize people into BPL and APL, you see the different disabilities or needs or requirements of the people at the micro level, not just economic needs, right? To identify the individual disabilities among the poor and the rich, he said. Let's see the question. Now the first question is, what is meant by APL? Again, this question, the answer to this question is not to be found here. Although the term APL has been used, but nothing in the passage, nothing has been said that APL stands for what, right? So you have to bank upon your knowledge of economics and social issues, the chapter on poverty, right, to answer this question. After poverty limit, no. Above poverty line, yes. Above poverty limit, no. At poverty line, no. Other than those, no. So the correct answer is above poverty line. And this question is although based on this passage, but the answer is not to be found in the passage. Next question. Why do we need to go beyond the BPL and APL categorization? Right. Let's see the first option. We need to provide benefits of anti-poverty programs to all BPL and APL population. No, we don't have to provide the benefits of anti-poverty programs to all above poverty line, to all below poverty line population. It is not the correct option because of this word all. We need to identify only individual disabilities and categorize them to get the benefit of anti-poverty program. Let's leave this option for now. This is wrong. We need to consider individual disabilities to categorize them to get the benefit of anti-poverty program. We'll come back to this later. Anti-poverty intervention is needed by both BPL and APL and the rich. No. Anti-poverty intervention is needed by both BPL and APL and the rich. Do the rich need anti-poverty intervention? No. So this option is again wrong. Micro level intervention is required by local self governments. Again, no. Although micro level intervention is required, but this is not the reason to go beyond the BPL and APL categorization. In fact, the question is asking that why is micro level intervention required? Right. So let's come back to the second and third option. Let's read this paragraph first. What we need is a micro level intervention to identify the individual disabilities among the poor and the rich. What we need is a micro level intervention to identify the individual disabilities, important word, individual disabilities among the poor and the rich. Right. That is why we need to go beyond the BPL and APL categorization. Let's see here. We need to identify only individual disabilities and categorize them to get the benefit of anti-poverty program. Please note the word only. The third option, we need to consider individual disabilities. Only has not been used. We need to consider individual disabilities to categorize them to get the benefit of anti-poverty program. This is the most apt answer, third. Right. So just only identifying the individual disabilities is also not a good option. But you have to consider the individual disabilities as well while giving the benefits of anti-poverty programs, and then you have to move beyond the BPL and APL categorization. Right. Here you have to go beyond here, go beyond the BPL and APL categorization, and there is a need of a micro level intervention to identify the individual disabilities. It is not saying that you have to identify only the individual disabilities. Right, so each word is important. You have to read it very carefully. Again, this question is based on the passage, and the answer can also be found in the passage itself. So the answer has to be inferred or deduced from the passage, but it is not like this question that you have to bank upon your existing knowledge. Now let's see another passage which was given in this information handbook. Now you have to answer the questions 6 and 7 based on the given passage. The 8th 5-year plan 92 to 97 was launched keeping in mind the necessity of implementing measures for stabilization and structural adjustment subsequent to the balance of payment crisis of 1991. So India suffered from the balance of payment crisis of BOP crisis in the year 1991, and the 8th 5-year plan was launched subsequent to that. It was launched in the year 1992, and this plan was launched keeping in mind the necessity of implementing the measures for stabilization and structural adjustment which was needed after the BOP crisis. Right. The plan took into account the changes that were to be expected in the economy on account of the adoption of these reform measures. What reform measures? The stabilization and structural adjustment measures, while keeping in mind the poor performance of the economy in the base year 1991-1992. Right. So the plan that was launched, that is the 8th 5-year plan, it had to account for the changes that were to take place in the economy because of the measures for stabilization and structural adjustment. Secondly, it had to take into account the poor performance of the Indian economy in the year 91-92. In the base year, that is 91-92, the rate of inflation was in double digits, while the overall growth rate of the GDP for that year was negligible. So for the year 91-92, the inflation was in double digits and the growth rate was very less or negligible. Now let's see the questions. What is the unit of measurement of GDP? Now as you can see, you have to bank upon your existing knowledge, prior knowledge. Right. This passage is not talking about the measurement or the unit of measurement of GDP. You have to bank upon your existing knowledge to answer this question. First option is percentage or proportion. Second is absolute number of goods and services. Monetary terms, rupees, dollars, absolute number per capita, other than those given as options. Unit of measurement of GDP. Now when we talk about GDP, we say that GDP is nothing but the total number of final goods and services produced in the domestic territory or the economic territory of a nation in 1 year. Economic territory, 1 year. Now this is the method of calculation of GDP. It is not the unit of measurement of GDP. So there is a difference between method and unit. Right? The method is that you have to add the final value of the final goods and services. You have to add the final value or the value of the final goods and services, not the intermediate goods and services which have been produced in the geographical territory or the domestic boundaries or the economic territory of the nation under consideration in a particular year. So this option goes because it is a method, it is not the unit. Now when we calculate the value, see, if I say that commodity A, commodity B and commodity C is being produced in a nation, and 1 unit of commodity A, 2 units of commodity B and 3 units of commodity C are being produced, and the value is rupee 1, rupee 2 and rupee 3. So it comes out to be 1 into 1 1, 2 into 2 4, 3 into 3 9. So 9 it comes to rupees 14. So this is the GDP for that particular year. So the right answer becomes monetary terms. So rupees 14 is nothing but monetary terms. That rupees 14 is the GDP of your nation. Right? When we talk about percentage, it is the growth. It is not the measurement of GDP itself. If we say that Indian GDP has grown by 7.1%, we are talking about the unit of measurement of growth of GDP. So had the question been that what is the unit of measurement of growth of GDP, then the percentage option would have been a better option, would have been the right answer. Okay, so for this question the right answer becomes monetary terms. So if we say that Indian economy is worth $2 trillion, right, 2 trillion, so it is nothing but we are using the monetary terms in dollar terms to express the value of Indian GDP. Fine. Question 7, again based on the passage, what is the role of 5-year plans in India? Role of 5-year plans. Now again this question is although based on the passage, this given passage, but the answer to this question cannot be exactly found in the passage. So let's see the options. To control the GDP and BOP only. Please lay emphasis on the word only. Let's move to the second option. To plan for the overall development of different productive sectors or production sectors. This is not a wrong option. This is right. Let's see further if we can find some better option. To plan for the overall development of different production sectors as well as human development. So 2 option now is eliminated because this is a better option as compared to 2, because it is including the second option, that is for different production sectors as well as for human development. So 5-year plans also take care of health, they also take care of education, they also take care of sanitation, employment, all these things, social security, right? So these are nothing but the various steps taken by the government for ensuring human development. So this option is better one as compared to 2, so we eliminate 2. To plan for overall development of the country and approve budgetary allocation. So the first part of the statement is true, that the 5-year plans, the role of 5-year plans is to carry out overall development of the country, but its role is not to approve budgetary allocation. So this option is wrong. To plan for overall agricultural development of the country and allocate resources. So this option is a micro option. It is restricting the role of the 5-year plans to just agriculture. That is not the case. So this is again a wrong option. Right, wrong. So we are left between 1 and 3. Now the first option is to control GDP and BOP only. So is the 5-year plan just for GDP and BOP? No. Right. So this option becomes the best option, third option. That is to plan for the overall development of different production sectors as well as for human development. This is the best option as per the given 5 options. And the answer to this question is not to be found in the passage exactly. Now these are standalone questions. Now there are some passage questions, passage based questions, then there are some standalone questions which are not linked to a particular passage. So this question is standalone question. According to SECC, that is the Socio-Economic and Caste Census exercise that started in 2011. The total number of households in India are around. It is a factual question. Right. So SECC is very important. It is extremely important for our NABARD syllabus, for our NABARD preparation. We have to read the data, the factual data, and memorize that data of the SECC. Fine. So the correct answer is 24.39 crore. You have to memorize. Rote learning hai ye. You have to memorize this. Right here. So if you see the SECC data, key findings from rural India, the total households in the country, rural plus urban is 24.49 crore. This is the given option. Fine. So it is 39 here, the option is 49. I think this is the right option only. This is the data that I picked up from the SECC website itself. Maybe here is a typo. Never mind. So this is the right option. Question number 9. Which of the following types of initiatives by the government cannot be classified as an anti-poverty program? Right, so you have to select an option from the given 5 options that cannot be classified as an anti-poverty program. Let's see. Urban Poverty Alleviation Program. Again, this is a poverty alleviation program, so obviously it is an anti-poverty program, so this cannot be the right answer. Caste-based reservation in jobs. Let's leave this option. Self-employment programs. So self-employment programs are also again anti-poverty only. Anti-poverty programs only. Because by imparting certain skills, by giving credit or loan at a low rate of interest, and by promoting entrepreneurship, we promote self-employment, and the basic aim is to bring the households or the persons out of poverty. So it is again anti-poverty program, so this cannot be the right option. The social security programs, like various programs under the National Social Assistance Program and all, so they are again anti-poverty programs because they generally target the PPL population. So again, this cannot be the option. The wage employment programs, again like NREGA, we can see, right? So we have seen that it is again directed towards anti-poverty, right? Elimination of poverty, eradication of poverty, reduction of poverty. So this also cannot be a anti-poverty program. This can also this is also an anti-poverty program, so this cannot be the option because we have to select the option that cannot be classified, as an anti-poverty program. Let's see this, caste-based reservation in jobs. No, this is not an anti-poverty step or an anti-poverty program, right? So when we talk about caste-based reservation, that we have given reservation for we have given reservation in jobs for scheduled caste, it is not for anti-poverty, it is for their upliftment basically. That for historical reasons, that certain that we have that Indian history is full of instances where injustice has been done. Injustice has been done against certain castes. So to uplift this section of the society, to pay for that injustice, we are basically giving the caste-based reservation, right? So this is not an anti-poverty program, so the right answer becomes 2. This is the correct option. So these are the questions that were given. These are the 9 questions of ESI and ARD that were given in the information handbook or the sample paper as released by NABARD last year. Now what are the key takeaways? What have you learned from this video? See, what you have learned, the first point is that you should lay emphasis on this point. You should lay importance on this point, that you have to prepare the essay, you have to prepare Prezi, you have to prepare questions based on Prezi, nothing reading comprehension, right? Descriptive type reading comprehension, that you have to answer questions, you have to type the answer to the questions based on the given passage. Now that passage can be a different passage, or that passage can be the same as the given for the Prezi. And letter writing. So if you are preparing for NABARD, then while preparing the English paper for phase 2, you have to prepare essay, you have to prepare Prezi, you have to prepare descriptive reading comprehension type answers, and you have to prepare letter writing. Right, let's wait for the 2017 notification. Maybe the pattern is changed, or maybe some topic is included. I don't think so that this will happen, but still we have to wait for the notification. But for now on, for now you have to prepare these topics. As far as ESI and ARD is concerned, there are both passage based questions and standalone questions, right? And within the passage based questions, there are such certain questions whose answers are not necessarily found in the given passage, as we had seen that the question is on APL, above poverty line, right? So there are certain questions which are although based on the passage, but the answers you have to find out not from the passage but from your earlier or prior knowledge. Then the questions are factual as well as conceptual. Now that SECC question was factual, right? The SECC question was total factual, and the questions which are based on the passage, that why APL distinction and BPL distinction should be removed, that was a basically conceptual question that was based on the passage. One thing that you have to note, this is a very important point, kindly let's stress on this point, that the weightage of core agriculture questions is very less. Now what do I mean by core agriculture questions? Once you go through the syllabus of ESI and ARD as given by NABARD, right? We have also made a video on that, you can go through that video. Then the syllabus is very technical. It is basically core agriculture. There are topics like farm engineering, mechanization, forestry, agri-engineering, right, fisheries, forest mensuration. There are so many topics like this. Now these are core agriculture topics. As you can see in the sample paper, and as I'll be discussing in a further video, I'll be taking up the actual questions that were asked in 2016, right, memory based. So you can see that you will be able to recognize that the weightage of the core agriculture questions is very less. In fact, in the sample paper there is no direct question on any core agricultural topic. Fine. So the takeaway from this point is that when you start preparing for NABARD, do not start your preparation by picking up the first topic of agriculture, scope, definition and all branches. Don't start your preparation in this way, that you pick up the first topic of agriculture and then you start reading the scope of agriculture, the definition of agriculture, the various branches of agriculture, and then you move on to agronomy, then you move on to horticulture and so on. That is not the smart way to prepare for NABARD, as you can see from the sample paper, as well as I'll be discussing the actual examination that was held in 2016. Right? You have to prepare certain sources, certain reports, right, like the economic survey, the budget, the Minister of Agriculture annual reports, the Minister of Rural Development annual reports, the various yojanas, the various Kurukshetras, the Pratyogita Darpan Special Economy Edition. These are the sources that you have to prepare first. After that, if you get the time and the will, if you have the will, then you can come to the core agriculture topics, right? So because the cost benefit analysis is not favorable if you start with the core agriculture topics and then you are left with no time to prepare the important sources like the state of forest report, like yojana, like Kurukshetra. Those are the sources which are highly relevant and the most important as far as NABARD paper is concerned, especially phase 2, ESI+ARD. Right, so I'll be talking in detail about these points in the further videos as well. These are the key takeaways. Right. In the next video, what we'll be doing is we'll be discussing the grade B sample paper. Now in this video we have discussed the grade A sample paper, that is the English and ESI+ARD. Now for grade B, the third paper is there, that is developmental economy, stats, finance and management. Right, so NABARD has also given a few sample questions, around 4 in number, for these topics. So we'll be discussing those questions, and then in the next video we'll be talking about the syllabus of ESI+ARD. Then the next video we'll be talking about the actual 2016 examination. I'll be picking up the questions that were asked in the 2016 examination and I'll be discussing the sources for those questions as well. This is the most important video. Do not miss this video. Actual questions that were asked and the sources. Right, and the thing that is directly linked with the sources is the question how to prepare. So once you come to know the sources, automatically this question is answered, that how you have to prepare for NABARD grade A and grade B examination 2017. Do visit our website by the name of www.edutap.co.in. We'll be launching the NABARD course on 31st of May 2017. This is our YouTube channel, EduTap. Videos for RBI as well as NABARD officer level examination are available here. If you have any query, do drop us a mail at the following email address: crackrb@gmail.com or learnofy@gmail.com. Anyone. Thank you.